Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Working Musicians, where I am your host, Dris Organica, and I am an animal, and I have been having a great time. Let me tell you, I've been having a great time. I tell you, I've been having a real interesting time because, I just got out on the internet and I was typed in Working Musicians podcast to pull up my podcast for some reason or another, and I noticed somebody else got the same great idea as I have. Of course, granted, theirs wasn't published till after mine, but to be perfectly honest, I have this strange suspicion they had no idea mine was out there. Hell, there's a much bigger podcast called Working Class Musicians or Audio or something, and it's cool and all. It's got some bigger names, but it's more specific to like mixing, mastering, that kind of thing. It's cool, but it's just, geez, once again, I come out with a great idea and somebody else steals it. Now, I want to tell you something. You're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me because I bet there's only like 2 or 3 other people on the planet who believe me because they played in the band that I did. But I have been plagued with coming out with good ideas, getting them out first, and then other people come in behind me and they make that idea more popular or famous or whatever you want to call it. There's a band who I'll let remain nameless, who is called Tool, that actually stole a riff from me. Like, they flat out stole a riff from me off their 10,000 Days CD, but mine came out like 3 years before that, and they totally stole my riff. But, that's how things go. And, of course, they're selling millions of copies, and I'm, producing this in the basement of my mom's house, so my mom's basement, but they totally stole my riff. Just like you, other Working Musicians podcast. You stole my title. But to be perfectly honest, I don't really care. Because your show, I listened to like 2 minutes of it, and I could tell very quickly that it's a different format. It's more, hey, I'll give us some free advertising. Best of luck to you, buddy. It's got some, kind of things where it's like it interviews other musicians, which is cool. Hey, that's a great thing. But I've got to say, guys, on the freaking podcast, you have got to do better on being more entertaining behind the microphone. Y'all are just boring. It's like you may have the right voice for it, or you could do it. You just don't have the right animosity, the right energy. Like, do you want me to be entertained when I'm listening to you? Or do you not? Do you want me to listen to you on the way to work? Like everyone who basically listens to something. If you're listening to a podcast, it's because either you're at work or you're on your way to work or you're doing something menial and you need some background noise to kind of listen to. That's what podcast is about. And I love podcasts. I'm not trying to downgrade the significance of a podcast. I like podcasts. But let me tell you something. I usually listen to podcasts on my way to and fro work, right? Or if I'm like doing something just kind of, it's just tedious job, I'll plug in the Bluetooth headpiece and listen to a podcast. It's great for that. I love it. I am an acquirer of information. I love it. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. If you want me to listen to you on your way to and from work, and you need to really liven it up. And I'm throwing out the gauntlet to you, other Working Musicians podcast. You need to liven up your programming. You talk like this. You're boring. Be entertaining, or you'll never measure up to Dris Organica. But hey, best of luck to you, man. I want to actually try to listen to that from time to time, see how it goes. I just think it's so cool that, and obviously I'm pretty sure the guy didn't steal this from me, although maybe he did, maybe he's like that. Maybe he's petty. Hey, I come out with great ideas. In case you haven't noticed, I'm both a scholar and a gentleman, but I'm a visionary. If you read the bio about me, also an international man of mystery. So it's to be expected that people will succumb to my powers and my prowess and copy ideas. Because at the end of the day, oh, come on, let me make sure I say this right. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So for that Working Musicians Podcast, the second, I am flattered. Best luck to you. I'm going to give y'all a listen. And I might mention, I'm going to actually listen to it. I didn't really listen to it before, but I'm going to actually listen to it. And I might vocalize what I think. Hopefully it's cool, man. I mean, I hope it's cool. I just wish you were, just from the little minute or so I listened to, I wish it was a little bit more animated behind the mic. Because I was getting sleepy. But at any rate, I decided that when I was saving the title for this episode, because I used the same settings from the previous episode of some kind and just delete the text and then rename it, I decided to name this episode, I've got it labeled as episode Millennials Doomed to Music. So, I'm going to talk about how millennials have doomed music. So this should be interesting. I kind of threw out the gauntlet. I have not really put a whole lot of thought and effort in this. So you're going to get this basically fresh from my mind. I mean, this is like steaming fresh. You ever see one of those piles out in the field and it's still steaming? Yeah, this baby's farm fresh. And speaking of farm fresh, I am currently sampling a frosty beverage that tastes like it was freshly brewed from a farm that happened to grow malted barley and hops. It is a brew known as Miller High Life. That's tasty. Refreshing, but not too filling. Because Lord knows if it was that filling, I couldn't have. I think I'm on like my 10th one. I couldn't have had, who am I kidding? I've had like 8. I'm my 8th one. Because I've got, let's see if I look at my beer fridge. I've got 4 more. So I'm on my 8th one I'm drinking right now. So clearly it's not too filling or I could not possibly have had 8 of these and been behind the mic. So basically, this is a great beer. If you're spending more than what Miller High Life is charging for a 12-pack of bottles, then you're crazy. I mean, you're crazy. If you need somebody who drinks 8 Miller High Lifes to tell you that you're crazy, then that's great. I'm happy to do that for you. That's what the show is all about. That's what the show is all about. Dris Organica is here to help you with your life. I'm here to help you with your life. And if you're spending more money for domestic beer than you would on spending on Miller High Life, then you're crazy. Now, if you're buying a craft beer, that's totally different. Oh, it blows the shit out of this. But the point is, Miller High Life, MGD, Budweiser, Coors, just buy the Miller High Life. It's way cheaper and it's just as good. And they are the official, unofficial, unsponsored sponsor of the Working Musicians, the first podcast, not the second podcast, the first. Huzzah. So I shall salute to being the first Working Musicians podcast. All right, hold on. I'm going to hit pause and regain my composure because I got to take a leak. And then when I get back, we're going to talk about why millennials have doomed music. All right. So when I say that millennials have doomed music, I have to go back and do a little backdrop on what exactly a millennial is, right? Because it's too broad a term. It just is. It's too broad of a term. Technically, you could say that I am a millennial, but I disagree. Clearly, I'm not quite Generation X. I'm just a little too young for that. But there are those who have tried to throw in the Generation Y, which is basically those who were born from like the earth, like 1982 to about 1991. But the truth is, I was born at a weird time. I don't consider myself a millennial, although there are some, internet sites who may. But let me just throw this out there. When I was in high school, high-speed internet had like just come out and it was inhibitantly expensive. I did not have a computer in high school. I got to college and did not know what Google was. Okay. I did not have my first cell phone till I was like 22. So as far as I'm concerned, I am not a millennial, right? Now I do remember some of the first things like Napster. I remember the internet when it first became cool, like right as it was becoming cool. I was there, man. I was like there. Pirating Metallica CDs at 2 kilobytes a second. What? Oh yeah. I totally left that thing going on for a month and I got the whole Metallica discography. I am a pirate. Yeah. But people don't realize that, be careful. You got to be careful who you call a millennial. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not a millennial. There's a whole little mini generation in there that lasts about 10 years, from basically about 1980 to about 1990, roughly. If you were born in there, you're not quite a millennial, but you're not quite Generation X. So I'm going to call you Generation Y, which there's a few other people who agree with this. But when I say a millennial, what I'm talking about is a person who grew up on the teat of the internet, the cell phone, the cool cable, all the cool stuff that we wish we would have had. I consider myself a child of the 90s, and while we had definitely some cool stuff, computers really didn't take off in my heyday. I mean, definitely they're out there, like we had the Nintendos and stuff like that, but let's face it. If I would have come up, maybe 7 years after when I did, my life would have been completely different. I didn't even know how to type when I got out of high school. I didn't know what Google was. I didn't know how, LOL. I didn't know what that means. And this is a true story. So I didn't know what Google was, but we had a Yahoo. And eventually I figured out how to play Yahoo card games like Gin, right? And I thought that was the greatest thing. We had like Earthlink, and it would dial up, and it was sweet, right? You signed up and you got your own email, right? That you could receive spam on. Sweet, I get to receive my own spam. I'm 13 and I get spam, baby. I was a little older than that. But there was somebody who was on the right of me use the acronym LOL, and I didn't know what it meant. So I honestly thought that LOL for like a while, I thought it meant like LOL meant loser on left because I didn't know any better, right? So, that's just how disconnected I feel from millennials. Like I feel like Homer Simpson. Now I've learned how to use a computer and I'm actually pretty competent on it. I can actually build computers. I haven't done one in here recently, but I'm sure it hasn't changed that much to the point where I couldn't do it. I just have to get up on the Tom's hardware and try to realize what's the best bang for my buck. By the way, if you're a computer enthusiast and you don't know about Tom's hardware, you are missing out. The only thing is occasionally they talk about audio, like production audio, like what I do, like studio audio, and you can tell these people don't really know what they're talking about. But, you gain knowledge and insight from all kinds of perspectives, and definitely Tom's Hardware is a great place to go if you're looking for computer enthusiast perspectives. I love that site. I don't visit as much as I used to, but definitely second to none as far as stuff like that goes. And non-tech is another good one. But as far as these millennial goes, these folks grew up on the teat of the computer and the internet and all that kind of stuff, the cell phone. So these people they're not people who are used to waiting for things. Like, it drives me nuts to this day, right? Like to this point in time, like if I call someone on let's say a Monday and say, hey, next week, you want to go to this concert Saturday night at 8? Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. So you'll be there? Okay, cool. I'll get my tickets. We'll be there. Right? So in my mind, I'm going there. If I don't talk to you between now and then, I'm expecting you there Saturday night at 8. Millennials don't do this. It's just a different culture. They don't do this. They make plans and then they call like the day before, the day of. They say, hey, we still on? And then they typically one will back out. And it's funny, now that they have more communication devices, they've become worse communicators, right? That's just a pet peeve of mine with millennials. But let me tell you something about millennials. They are not patient people. They do not like to wait around for stuff, right? So you could say that it's a good and bad thing, but I really have a concern as far as millennials entering into adulthood and being the kind of folks that progress music and are the people who, not just in terms of buying it, but obviously they're going to be the ones buying it, but they're not just the ones that buy it, but they're also the ones that make it, right? I'm really concerned because I'm kind of like, at my age, in my young 30s, I would probably be like the kind of people that have had people in my age range, they've had a little bit of a career in the music industry. They've done it for a little while. They're still there necessarily. They're not necessarily out, but they're on their way out, right? So it's this new generation, the real millennials, not the Generation Yers, the real millennials, not me, real millennials that are starting to take over. And I'm very concerned. Let me tell you why I'm concerned. These people have no patience. None. Everything's fast. Information is at their fingertips. They click a button on a cell phone, it streams instantly. They've never had to wait for things. And what I've noticed is a lot of times, not always, I'm not going to say always. There's clearly hardworking millennials out there. Hey, I'm not going to say what I do professionally for my living, but I've hired some great millennials. I'm not talking crap about millennials. I'm just saying there are some things I notice about millennials, right? From my perspective, as a not quite millennial, not quite Generation X, that I'm kind of on the cusp there. And I'm seeing, I can tell a difference between millennials and the people who came up the way I did. Let me tell you something. Millennials do not have patience for things. They have none. It's not to say that they necessarily won't work for things, but I guarantee you there's a whole lot fewer people who came up practicing for hours and hours on end on an instrument the way I came up. I can just tell you that right now. It's obvious. Seeing how society is and seeing all the millennials I know, it's clear because you can get up on the PlayStinkle or the X-Binkle, go to the Starbinkles, get yourself a Crappuccino, come back to your X-Binkle and PlayStinkle and play, Guitar Queero or Rock Band Queefo on the imitation computer on your TV, and you can get good at that in like 20 minutes. Guitar is going to take you 20 years. They're not interested in that. That takes too much time. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's just the tip. And I think it's just a sign of the time. My goal here is not to go and talk shit about millennials, but I want people to kind of think about it. This is a progressive trend that started since, computers came about. And you could say I'm kind of a byproduct of that to an extent. Basically, since the computer has become commonplace, people have kind of lost patience. They've lost their touch on communication. Nobody calls to order in a pizza anymore. No, we do it on the computer. Like, I don't want to call somebody. Just do it on that freaking app. There's an app for that. All the pizza companies have an app now, right? What's the point of having a cell phone if you have it? Why would you have a phone, right? Think about this for a second. Why would you buy a phone if you had to actually call a pizza chain to have a pizza delivered. Why would you buy a phone if you had to do that? Right? That's like dial-up. That's like landline service, baby. No, today we have apps for that, right? And that's what I'm talking about is the convenience that comes with the internet and the cell phone technology has really done a number on our expectations on how long things should take and how much effort things should take, right? So I'm going to leave you on pause for a minute while I go have another Frosty or beverage and drain the main vein. But when I come back, we're going to talk about some of the side effects that come about from the ease of access to information and communication that the internets and cell phones have provided and what that really means for music of today. Be right back. And now, before we get back to the rest of this episode, I've decided, after 8 or 9 of these Miller High Lifes, I'm going to play a little music. And I figured I'd record it and share it with you. So here's a little Incubus with The Warmth. The Warmth, yes, the ink by the Incubus. Here we go. My eyes go numb. There's a cold wind coming from on top of the highest high-rise today. Tonight the breeze, 'cause it blows hard. Is that it wants me to discard the humanity no one's the reality. So don't let the world bring you down. Not everyone here is that messed up and cold. Remember why you came and why you're alive. Experience the warmth before you grow old. Before you grow old, let it go. So do you think I should adhere to this pressing new frontier and live in my wake a trail of fears? Should I hold my head up high, though wrenching spokes by, living the air behind me clear? So don't let the world bring you down. Not everyone here is that messed up and cold. Remember why you came and why you're alive. Experience the warmth before you grow old. Before you grow old, let it go. Well, alrighty there. There you have it. Live in Dris Organica Studios with somebody in the bathroom making watery noises. That's how we roll. We're just rambunctious. I mean, we are spontaneous like this.
Someone in the bathroom is going to be making more watery noises because I need to take a shower.
And she needs to take a shower. So I'm going to push pause and drink more beer, and I'll be right back to you on why millennials have doomed music. Bye-bye. But I'll be right back. Oh, well, already I'm back. Oh, and there goes the phone. One moment. Okay, so where was I? That's right. The phone rang, and then, so pretty much, I left off yesterday, and I kind of forget exactly where I was, but I was looking at the at the whatchamacallit. I believe they call that a something is squeaking. Why do I have squeaking? I don't like squeaking. I really don't. Why is there squeaking in my headphones? Oh, no wonder. I forgot to turn off the monitors. Yeah. Oh, just nothing quite like a little on the fly troubleshooting. You know, I guess I could start over, but what's the fun in that? You know, we all experience technical difficulties. So yeah, last night, probably around this time, around 12, a good 12 hours later, I'm back to finish this episode. So as you could probably tell, you know, that last episode was, you know, good 8, 9, 10-fold, unofficially sponsored by Miller High Life, where the remainder of this episode will be sponsored by coffee, water, and actually, I felt pretty good. I didn't even need any ibuprofen. Every so often, if I have too many beers, I need ibuprofen. But I woke up feeling great today. So salute to that. I don't even need any hair of the dog that bit me to get through. So that's positive. So, millennials have doomed music. You know, I think I briefly kind of touched on some of the topics, you know, about their expectations on time. And I kind of wanted to throw this out there before I really get involved in this. I am in no way, shape, or form out there trying to bash millennials, right? That's not the point. The point is just to kind of look at them as a matter of fact, as a demographic, and try to see, you know, of course I put millennials have doomed music, but the truth is it's going to be their tastes and their wants that are going to shape music. And I think a lot of the music that's coming out now, people, you know, from my age and older aren't quite appreciating it so much. But then again, that's how this whole thing works. You know, modern rock and roll has progressed ever so from really, like, you know, 60s on out. That's really, I guess you could say even earlier, but really, I mean, nothing ever stays the same. And so everything evolves. After the millennials are done, it's the title will be, well, Generation Blank has doomed music. So the point is not to bash millennials, as easy as it may seem to be able to do. The idea is just to let's stop and think about what they're interested in and how this is going to shape music. So I'm going to start with one of the most obvious things I notice is millennials tend to be more interested in immediate gratification, right? So I've noticed that it doesn't seem like the typical millennial is going to put in the effort and time practicing an instrument, right? And I mean, just case in point, listen to music. It's as much computerized as it ever has been. I mean, dubstep has mixed genres with rock. I mean, it's gotten to the point where, you know, there's very little actual real music tracking going on and just a lot of sampling and, you know, effects editing and all that, which is fine. And I mean, it's a perfectly fine skill to have. I wish I knew more about effects editing and all that kind of sampler stuff. But I consider myself a more old-fashioned style musician where you actually play the stuff. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in doing that. But that seems to be the wave of the future. I go listen to the alternative rock stations, and they're becoming more and more synthesized, electric, and clearly much less grunge 90s sound. Is that a lot of that has gone away, and you know, they're as digital as ever. Their production values are fairly low, which is kind of a good thing. As a result of things being so digital now, and there being very little air and microphone techniques going on, the good thing about digital is it's very easy to make it sound crisp and clean and high end and HD, so to speak, because there's not really a whole lot it has to go through. You're just copying and pasting, you know, doing some editing within a computer. It never really leaves the system. It never really leaves the realm of digital. So it stays sounding good. Now, if anyone's ever tried to mix and match digital, you know, sampling kind of stuff, synths with microphone tracks, they are very hard to blend because they just sound so different. It just completely night and day sound quality differences.
So nowadays, it's kind of like if you want to be modern, you kind of have to blend digital stuff in with analog recorded things. By analog, what I mean is just actual microphone sounds. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. So, and I don't mean to say that all millennials, don't have the time, or the patience to practice learning an instrument, because clearly they do. But I mean, I've noticed just in my lifetime, some of the guitar players that are a little older than me tended to be a little bit better on average than the ones my age. And I'm noticing the ones my age tend to be a little bit better than what's coming out from the people that are, 10 years younger than I am. Now, obviously, if you're older, you've been playing longer. But the truth is, after you've been playing, 5, 10 years, you really don't tend to get a whole lot better. You kind of just stay there wherever you're at. And I remember where people were at in high school, and it's in early college years. And it seems like that basis, that kind of demographic of people has just progressively gotten worse and worse and just less experienced. And that's just a sign of the times. People do not want to sit around and learn something like that. They want immediate gratification. So how does that translate into the kind of music we're going to be hearing? What's the kind of music that demographic of people is going to want to hear? And that's kind of what I've been touching base on. And I think that's going to be an interesting one, because you would naturally think that the instant gratification millennials are going to want to hear more digitally enhanced styles of music. But I think the reason why they're going to want to hear that is that's because that's what's going to come out, because more people in their generation, that's what they're going to be doing. But I think the time frame will go away very quickly, or the life of that style of music, because it's in a lot of ways a lot easier to do and replicate. So if you look at it like that, okay, the more simplistic, EDM style music, that's going to go away, right? No, it's not. But to be honest, will it evolve? Probably, but I think what it'll actually do is, by its evolution, it will cycle. So I think that, and I notice this every so often, and I think we all do, where like the 80s come back, the 70s come back, the 90s, everything comes back. It recycles and it just kind of comes out, it blends, and it's similar but different, it's evolved. So, when I say that these millennials have doomed music, from my perspective, they have, because I'm not a big fan of all the extra digital enhancement stuff. But on the flip side, one thing I do like about the digital enhancement stuff is that it allows us home studio guys to, in some ways, have a better chance at making professional sounding music. Let's face it, if you go into your bedroom and record a real drum set and don't use any drum samples, it's going to be very obvious that it was done in a home studio, bedroom, or basement. But with the advent of these drum samples, like your Steven Slade, Addictive Drum, Superior Drummer, all that stuff, Easy Drummer Light, it's amazing how big of a step up you can, as far as sound quality goes, how much you can add to a bedroom recording, especially when it comes to something like drums. I mean, it's to the point where like you can actually kind of get away with just replacing almost all the samples that of a real drummer playing, and make it sound in some ways a lot better, or at least as far as the recording quality goes. Now you'll have to deal with other problems that come with drum sample replacement. I mean, there are quite a few. Good luck trying to do a certain, like, ghost notes don't always come out so good. Cymbal bleed is a problem. But reality is, if you're playing a fairly basic beat, I almost recommend just doing it on a digital drum set. It's way easier to deal with, just working through MIDI that way. So as a result of the technology, people are finding easier ways to do things, to get things to sound as professional as possible. But on the flip side, if you look outside of I'd say the radio mainstream and look on YouTube, there is a huge surge of people, that are very interested in people's YouTube channels, of people who are very, very good musicians. And I could name a few of them out there, but because of the YouTube thing, there's kind of a divide, or the internet, I should say. There's a divide of people who are sick of the mainstream channels on the radio and are turning towards your more independent styles, and they're funding them through patronage and just click support and all that kind of thing. I mean, there are people making full-time livings, good money, off their YouTube channels. That's amazing. That kind of stuff didn't happen 20 years ago. Just absolutely amazing. So, I mean, clearly they're being supported by people who are looking for something other than the mainstream. So it kind of seems like there's a bit of a divide here. And when I say millennials have doomed music, I think there's going to always be the people who listen to the radio, but the radio as it is seems like it's more so older people listen to the radio, in my opinion. I mean, obviously it depends on what it is, but a lot of people still listen to the radio. But now there's so many other options that people don't want to hear the commercials. They don't want to hear the talk. They just want to hear the music. And they don't care about the sound quality as much. The millennial, they much rather listen to their iTunes playlist or the Pandora and the YouTube stations, whatever they got set up. And what I don't think they really realize is the sound quality of what they're listening to is pretty poor. So when I say they've doomed music, this is another thing I've kind of noticed. The millennial has no problem with MP3. They're used to it. They don't think it sounds bad. And I'm not saying MP3s necessarily sound bad. I mean, they can sound great, no doubt about it. But the millennial is very used to the MP3 being played through low-quality converters on their cellular device and then listening to it through earbuds. So on that note, there's also been a resurgence of audio purists who are like, listen to the CD, listen to the vinyl. But that's fairly small and niche. It seems like the good thing is people don't really notice the quality of audio as much. So even though the ability to record is much better quality of audio is out there from, let's say, 20 years ago, or every year it seems to get better, and it's more accessible to more people and it's cheaper, the systems, the playback system we're using are actually worse in a lot of ways. CD is a far superior format as far as sound quality, and now you can get even higher def than CD quality, and there are people who want that, but for the most part, I'll just take the MP3 or whatever low-res sample there is on YouTube, and people are fine with that. So I think that we've kind of peaked as far as the high-end playback systems. I think it's going to be small and niche as it always has been, but it's really going to be small and niche. People just don't really seem to care about playback quality, and so as a result, I don't see there being as big of much of a point in having super pristine audio recordings, and that's why in general the budgets for these things are so small that they don't need to be. These albums don't make the kind of money that they used to. So that's another thing where it's just kind of doomed. Millennials don't see, I mean, in general, people as a result, we're not buying music at the rate we used to because we don't have to. If there's something you don't really like enough to purchase, you don't have to. You can look it up for free. And granted, the quality may not be as good as the actual CD, but who cares? You know what I mean? It's people's monetization of music has really diminished as far as the consumer is concerned. Gone are the days of buying the new CD when it comes out. It's gone. People just don't care. And if they do want it, they'll get the iTunes. You know what I mean? So it's kind of changed in that regard. And so, and it's not just their fault. That's just the way the industry is going, to where they're looking for easy access, quick gratification, click, listen, stream live, and they don't really have to worry about how they get the music. They open up their app and it's right there. As a result, you could say it's harder to make big money as a musician, perhaps, but I think it has opened the door for smaller musicians to make it bigger than they ever would have otherwise. So I think as far as people in the working musician community go, I think it's going to be a great thing for the grassroots meat and potato kind of guys, because you can still have your full-time job, run your YouTube channel, play live on the weekends, and achieve a fairly good level of success. Not saying you're going to retire off that and make millions, but you can achieve a pretty good level of success. And I mean, we see people do this on their YouTube channels all the time. I'm not going to name names because I'm not here to support anybody or say who you should listen to, but I found quite a few of my listen. These guys have millions of subscribers. I'm like, wow. But a lot of these guys are very good musicians, and they're millennials. So one of the advantages they have is, in addition to being very good at their music, they're also very savvy on modern technology and know how to get these YouTube videos out. It's easy for them. Whereas someone like me, just trying to figure out how to make a video and then get that to work on YouTube. I'm struggling. I have no idea. I've tried. I just don't know what I'm doing. So that's going to be one of my resolutions, is just to do what most millennials know how to do. And that's make a YouTube video, without using the little app on my cell phone that looks like crap and sounds bad. So that's going to be something I'm working on. And so I guess when I say when millennials have doomed music, what I really mean is, as far as music gets, it's going to, for the most part, get more digitized, more synthesized, less humanistic. That's going to continue on the mainstream. It seems like it gets more and more so that way every year. At some point, it will come back. It seems like it always does. But I think we're looking at another 5-10 years of very heavily computerized music. But that'll be on the mainstream radio, the clear channels. But on the YouTube channels, I think you're going to find a big resurgence of people looking for what I would call more real classical style music, like where people actually play it. It's definitely out there. The question is, which one will be bigger? I think we know the answer to that. It'll be the cheesy pop. That's always seems to be what wins the day. But after that, after 5 or 10 years, I'm willing to bet there will be a resurgence back to where we were 10 years ago. So the good news is, because they've doomed it, the future, the generation after them will get sick of what they hear, and they'll want something different. And it'll likely be something that's already been done before, if history repeats itself, and it always does. So, all right, I'm done rambling. Y'all keep dooming music, you millennials, you Generation Xers, you baby boomers. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.